Hi, Shay here. In my previous video on Blender, I showed you how to use the circle tool to create shapes like this. In the comments and feedback from different platforms, people requested that I show them how I made these shapes into biscuits. That's what we're going to do in this video. So we have our shape here, right? Now, the first thing I'll add here, I'll go to my right here. I'll add a displace modifier. Add modifier, deform, and I'll come to displace. I'll click on new to create a new texture. Now I'll set it from local to object, and also reduce strength from 1 to about 0.5. So what we'll do here is add an empty to control our displacement. So you come down and say empty, then like this. So this is the empty here. We'll come to this outline and rename this empty. Call it displacement empty. Click on our heart shape. So in the object we want to use to control it. So in the object, we'll look for displacement empty. We have it here. So the reason why we have this shape is to control displacement. While we are still on that screen, we click on this icon to take us to textures part. We come down here and click on wood. So as you can see here, looks pretty wonky, looks weird. First, we can go back to the strength and reduce to about 0.15. And then when you click on your empty and resize it, you can reduce how many times it shows up. Click on your biscuit shape, your heart shape, R, X to rotate, and press 90. So as you scale up your empty, the stripes or the lines on the biscuit shape grows larger or smaller depending on how. So if it looks too artificial, you can come back to the displacement modifier and reduce the strength. I'll do 1.5. I'll do 0.1. I'll do 0.08. So we have it here, and then you can even rotate this whichever way you want. I think I like this style here. Yeah, so rotate this whichever way you want, and then you have the first shape set. So with this set, we come to the right hand side. So with this set, you can divide your work area into two and change this to shader editor. So you have shader editor, and now you can create a new material. So you have something like this. So let's start building our material nodes. So the first thing you add here, let's add a color ramp. Shift A to add, and then you can search for color ramp here. So what I'll do first is, so I want to give it two colors because biscuits usually have this charred edges, which is the part that gets overcooked a bit. So it gives it that crunchiness. I'll do something like this. Try this color. We'll see how it works, because you also have to juxtapose this with what you have in mind as far as the biscuit colors are concerned. So I'll connect the color to the base color input of principal BSDF. I also come to subsurface. On the weight, I give you 0.5. I can also connect the radius of this to the color here. With this set, we can come to a material preview to see how your color would look like. Now also we would have to reduce the roughness. I don't like going with perfect values, so I would say something like 0.9 instead of saying 1. Biscuit surfaces are very rough, so that's why we need that. Next thing we'll do is add a bevel shader. Bevel. Also, let's add a geometry node. Now we have these two here. Move them to the side, and then we'll add a vector math node. Vector math. So you type in vector and you see that. Now you connect the normal of the geometry to this first vector, and the normal of bevel to the second value here. Right. And then next thing you connect the normal here to fact. This bevel feature would only work in cycles. So let's go to our render tab to switch to cycles. I have mine set to cycles. You can set yours to as well. And then we go to the rendered view. As you can see, the reason why I have this checkered background is because I have transparency turned on under film. So if you come under film, you see transparency, can turn it on. We have this scene here. We can add a light to the scene. I'm going to turn on my light, which I've added, so I can move my object behind. So now we are looking at our shape, and it looks out of place. And the first thing we do is change this from add to dot product. So after that, ensure that your value is connected to the fact output of your color ramp. And the next thing we'll do here is to change the value here. Now we change the value here from 4 to 16. So the size of your object will also determine how well this will work for you. What we're trying to get here is those blunt edges. When the biscuit sits in the oven for a very long time, some parts get in contact with heat than the others. So that's why it's like this. And adjust this part here to move this part around. So we have this charred edges around this biscuit here. So as you can see here, it looks crunchy already. But then we'll come back to material mode to add some more things. Like I said, this bevel thing wouldn't work in cycles. That's why you can see it here. But what we want to do here is add some displacement and some roughness. So the first thing we'll do here as a displacement node, displacement. So connect the displacement output to the displacement input on the material output. To ensure that your displacement is visible, you come to your material section. Under settings, below surface, you see displacement and you select displacement and bump. So there are three options there. Select displacement and bump. So that way we are able to show displacement. And the next thing we'll do is add a noise texture. Good old noise texture comes in very handy. So connect the FAC output to the height input. So as you can see, it already looks rough. Depending on how your object is unwrapped, we're probably going to UV unwrapping later, but for something simple you can. So to avoid this wet part here, we would have to map this accordingly. So if you have node wrangler enabled, press Ctrl T, and then that way you have these two nodes attached to the noise texture. Go to edit preferences and enable node wrangler. So go to edit preferences, add-ons, or get extension, whichever one, and enable node wrangler. So you can see mine here. Now what we'll do is connect the object output to the vector input, and that way it spreads about evenly, right? So we can reduce this from 5 to say 1. So we can reduce the scale of this from a 1 to 0.08. So we say 0.08. Let's have it there, right? And then we come to noise to ensure that it's around 10. Yeah, so we want those crusty sides, as you can see them, right? And then we ensure that this is set this way and object is connected to vector. Also, one thing I would like to do is, I rotated this before, but now I'd like to reset it. So I'll say Alt R. So we have this right here, right? You can even go further by adding a bump, or you can add a bump node here. So you connect the normal to the normal here, and then you add a noise texture. You connect the FAC to the height. Like I mentioned, with this present, all you may need to do is just connect this, make use of a texture coordinate node to fix that. Object comes in handy and easy to use. So connect that to the object, and also we can reduce the strength to about 0.5, and then the distance to about 0.05. It's not really visible, it's subtle, but it comes in handy when you want to show something like a biscuit that's with a rough surface. You can also increase this to about 8. So we see here. So we'll go back to our rendered view, and we have this here, right? So you can see. So I'll go to top view, and I'll bring in the star here. So I'll duplicate the star and bring it here. So I can click on the star, hold down Shift, and click on the heart shape. So I can press Ctrl L and link materials. And what that does is copy this old texture to this one, right? Without us starting from scratch. Also, we can also copy this displacement modifier we added. So we can click this, hold down Shift and click on this. Press Ctrl L, and we see copy modifiers. So as you can see here, here's how it looks. So if I take my light to this part here, you can see it checks out. You can always adjust to your needs depending on how large or small your object is. So you can always adjust with your MT as well. When I increase this, the biscuit shape goes, but I just want to ensure that it sticks to that realistic range. I can rotate this RX and press 90, to rotate it on the x-axis. This still looks sharp. I'll be interested in knowing what you create from this, and you can tag me on my socials or let me know in the comments. Please subscribe, share, and like. I'll see you in the comments and in the next one. Thank you.